Hey, hey, hey! Zulu is back in business to read, and I'm going to continue reading Wild Card by Barrel of Fun. Ace in the Hole. I couldn't feel but a little guilty as the dogs marched us along the plains to the cave, but the blue-coated mare beside me looked completely dejected, and it was, to the reasonable standing, my fault. Eventually her escape from the grasp of the slaver dogs had been halted by my sudden appearance and subsequent collision. Condescending that my Patreon goddess was delayed of luck was a bit of misfortune. Or should I say misfortune? See what I did there? RTRR? Well, yeah. Anyways, I came to a conclusion that something wildly consensual happened. Something that goes against all expectation and probabilities. It was probably due to the interference of my goddess. Luck is double-edged sword, and it comes in two distinct flavors, good and bad. I hope I get treated more of the former than the lesser. The dog had initially set up a running pace, however, that hadn't worked too well, as my stumbling stride was unable to keep up. They had been forced to escort us along the plain at a brisk walking pace. I was glad to the two reasons. It allowed me more time to get used to my new legs and coordinate my balance. It also gave the unicorn mare beside me a chance to rest up. After her mad dash to escape the dog, she was quite exhausted. I worried about I worried if she would have been survived another high-speed run. I look at most of the day for the dogs to return to the home. The fact that they were not very happy about as they kept on poking me with their spears. They're very sharp spears. At additional, they have been confiscating my belt of tricks, and they have been quotas, thus previous me from using, thus preventing me from using any of my tricks on them. Not that any tricks have been work. This is much. There isn't too much shining powder and cars that can stop a spear thrust. As we approach the cave entrance, I notice that the dog have far more than mere spares to the disposal. When it came to defending the territory. On the other side, the entrance were ballista, huge crossbows capable of firing giant bolts at the target. Eventually, the dog had been a bit creative than just shoot bolts, though. The ballista was equipped with a large sheath of ordinary crossbows, bound together what looks like a twine. Their purpose was immediate. It was essentially a huge slingshot shotgun. The ballista would fire a bundle of bolts forward, breaking the twine that held them together. The bolts would then fly in a giant arc, evidently whatever stood in front of them. A truly deadly infantry weapon. I'm not ashamed to admit that I was more than a little scared as I passed between those giant bows. Wild card I may be, but I need a whole hell of lot of luck to survive being shot by those monstrous weapons. The inside of the cave was dimly lit. The dog must have been much better at seeing in the dark than I was, I could barely make out anything in the front of me. The only thing I could make out was the unicorn mare beside me and the shuffling shapes of the guard dogs. The guard dogs? Funny. We were escorted into a large hall-like chamber. Unlike all the other chambers I had seen so far, this actually was well lit, which was only served to portray the cavernous expanse. Pillars held up a ceiling that was barely visible, even with the light of flickering torches to illuminate the room. Guard dogs in better armor than the ones who had brought us here were evidently some sort of honor guard for the lords of this place. The littered lined walls everywhere. There wasn't a torch. Anywhere there wasn't a torch were a guard. The hall led up to raised dais on which sat a huge throne, carved entirely out of marble. Upon the throne sat a huge figure, an enormous mold of flesh and muscle, and vaguely took the shape of a Darman dog if you squinted and turned your head a bit. So this was their lord? He was really a big dog around here. Literally. Even seated, he towered over every dog in the hall. He must have been around 7 feet tall if he stood up fully. His muscle bunched and grotesquely underneath his pale, translucent hair. The most striking thing about him was not his enormous size, but rather his eyes. They were deeply set inside his face and moved around with a manic energy. The intense gaze would emanate land on any of the shadows created by the flickering torches. Bow down before His Majesty Lord High Alpha Redtooth. The butts of the spears were slammed into our legs, so we were forced to prostrate ourselves before the Alpha. His eyes, with their extreme energy, looked on us as our fates were declared by our guard. The mayor's slave is recently recaptured after escape attempt with this muted minotaur. He spat out the words with disgust. Was captured as he tried to assist her escape. That's not true. I impeded her escape. Oh, wait. That's not much better. Carry on, my good, gentle dog. Not my brightest side. The big dog was regarding his beady eyes. He continues carefully forced to digest question his guard. Are they working with the shadows? They whispers to me, you know. Whispers much sweet honeyed words. No, sir. I believe they are regular prisoners. What should we do with them? I was becoming increasingly clear that something was wrong with Lord Redtooth. He hasn't exactly looked like the healthiest dog in the house, despite his massive bulk. Not to mention all the bruises business with talking shadows. Huh. It was at this point that one of the torches near us flickered and went dim, sending shadows scurrying across the floor and towards the red-toothed throne. The shadows managed to just touch the edge of the floor before he leapt backwards in fright, a whine escaping his throat as he jumps on the throne like a startled child, staring down at the shadow fearfully. One of the dogs that flanked his throne came forward with a large chalice, which he handed to Lord Redtooth. The huge dog greedily gulped down the liquid as his lives depended on it. Once he finished with the drink, he threw the chalice upon the ground and returned to his regular seating position. One of the guards hastily driving the shadows away from him with a torch. His eyes were no longer fearful or paranoid, but instead gazed at us with burning anger. It is clear from, from your attempts to corrupt my person with your foul, malevolent influence that you cannot be entrusted with normal slave work. To the hole with them! The mare beside me gulped, gasped in fear, which I just confused. What's the hole? Why was subterpal as it deserves a capital letter? Huh? The dog around us just grinned with procrastination of our fate. Some of them were drooling a bit. Whatever the hole was, it was bad for us, but very good for the dogs. We were once again marched through dim-lit corridors into another cave. This one smaller than the throne room, less decorated and far less lit. A couple of torches were all that sputtered on the wall of the cave, freely trying to beat back the darkness. The chamber was taken up mainly by an enormous pen made of twisted scrap metal. Inside the cage, features moved about in the blackness, and I could see forms of guard dogs patrolling the edge. Some kind of large prison. The guards were swift in their movements to open the gate to the twisted cage. Here rudely thrown inside to land face first in the dirt, as the gate hastily slammed shut behind us. As I pulled my face out of the sand and mud, mysterious unicorn mare struggled up to her feet, and the shapes around us began to move. The other prisoners are approaching fresh meat. Oh god, I'm too pretty to be in prison. I'm gonna be raped! Imaging my embarrassment, when instead of leering face of an uncle bad tooth, the kindly face of an aged zebra appeared from the shadows. His face was deeply set in wrinkles, and his eyes held deep sadness. His white mane hung down, his face in wisps, barely holding on to the roots. Are you okay, young ones? His voice was comforting and deep. Besides having a rasp, it spoke volumes about his health. The unicorn managed to gain stability on her hooves by the point and greeted the old zebra. Yes, I'm fine. Just a little shook up. May I ask your name? I'm Zende, and you are Summerstorm. And who are your usual friend? He's no friend of mine. Hey, that's rude. I'm standing right here. If anything, he's the reason I am in this place. Okay, I must really protest. First off, my name is Ace. Secondarily, you ran into me. I figure I may have sounded a bit whiny here, but there was no way. I'm taking all this blame for this. Only because you decided to get in my way. I mean, how dumb are you? Couldn't you see I was running away? I didn't see you at all. One minute I was walking in a forest, next minute, bam! I'm covered in unicorn mare, and not in a good way either. Our argument managed to attract the attention of the prisoners around us as well. Worryingly, some of the closer guard dogs. Hush, stay quiet. Don't let them notice you, warned Zende. Don't you know where we are? This is the hole. Yeah, and so? I was still confused about why this place was so scary. You don't know? The hole is where prisoners are kept to fighting in a sand ring. The guards would randomly select one of us to fight the champion, a huge, constantly enraged minotaur who can rip apart anything that stands in its way. It is said that he even scares Lord Dreadtooth, who fears no living thing but just the shadows. Well, that's worrying. If there ever a chance that I will be fighting something that puts this scare into that monster stroke, then I want nothing to do with it. I shouldn't worry enough. Judging by the amount of fighting slaves inside here, the hole, the chance that I would be fighting anytime soon must be like 1,000 to 1. I mean, I could have bad luck of epic proportion to pick me on the first day. It was then I noticed all the prisoners had gone quite backed away from me, even Zende and Summer. I turned around to see the armed content of a guard dog coming straight at me. Oh, bollocks. I sometimes hate my luck. Thank you. And cut. Well, that was my second chapter of Wild Card. This was Zolo, and peace out, and keep on having a great day.